Josh Atkins transferring over from Hawaii to Arizona State. This is a guy that was an offensive tackle at Houston, at Hawaii, and he's a massive dude. Massive dude. His Houston roster has him listed at 6'4", 315 pounds. This is a unit of an offensive lineman who adds some significant depth for Arizona State.
Look, talked about it a lot, that programs get flipped, programs get better. Not a lot of the times because of all the skill position players. It starts in the trenches first, right? And then everything else follows. And I remember at the beginning of all this transfer portal madness, everybody was going, where's the offensive lineman? Where's the offensive lineman? Where's the offensive lineman? Here are your freaking offensive linemen, man. And I'm pumped. Like, it's nice to just see everything start to really come together. Yeah. Like, this is not the first offensive lineman that they got. I'm sure it's not going to be the last because KD and the boys are just freaking cooking in there, man. They're cooking.
And Atkins, a kid that you bring up the fact that, yes, he was at Houston. Yes, he was at Hawaii, but he was a Texas high school kid.
What a surprise.
Huge. The Texas to Tempe pipeline continues to produce. That's exactly kind of the staple of Brian Carrington and Rashad Samples from what we've seen, right? Is their specialty is going out into Big 12 country, getting some of those guys, right? Like, that is absolutely a staple of the type of player that Arizona State is wanting to add because they know what successful high school looks like. And that is exactly what they're doing in Texas. And I think, again, one big part of Arizona State versus other teams, right? Insert Oregon, insert Washington, whatever. You see the size in the trenches has been an issue for Arizona State. And not just the Sun Devils, but it's been an issue for a lot of teams that try and compete at a high level with some of these schools.
The reason why Colorado just basically stumbled out to the end of the season was because at the end of the day, they couldn't protect anybody. They couldn't get any time for their quarterback. Like, that was a really big deal with Colorado. And that's why you saw them focus a lot on trying to get offensive linemen. I've always said it in the NFL and college football, if I have to build a team from scratch, and I have to start and just say one part of my team has to be like elite. I get to pick like one elite, one good, one mediocre, one bad. I'm going offensive line elite every single time. You have to, because nothing else really works. And we saw it this season. See how many quarterbacks got injured? Part of that's because of the offensive line. And
you're right.
It's not exactly the offensive line's fault because they all got injured as well. And you can't really control that or prepare for that or train against that. But I'm loving it. And you look at, obviously he didn't play at Houston. He had one season in Hawaii. But if we want to go back to Texas, which Texas high school football, sometimes you look at high school football stats and it doesn't really translate that well. Texas is one of the ones where you can feel pretty confident about it. First team All-District 5A as a senior in 2020. His team averaged 257.6 rushing yards per game and 8.7 yards per carry. In Texas. Like, that is insane.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
That's insane.
And I don't know if this kid's going to come in and start right away, but even regardless, you're adding depth to an offensive line that didn't have that last season, that didn't have really enough guys at one point to turn around on the sideline and be like, hey, you're in, next man up. Quite literally, there was a point in the year where they didn't. And now you are adding depth and you're adding size. A guy that, played a lot at Hawaii. You mentioned the fact that he didn't necessarily play at Houston. So you are getting a guy that does have some game experience.
He played in 13 games last season for Hawaii, and he was starting for them. And so even if he doesn't start here, that's fine because he probably is coming here understanding kind of what his role is and wanting to play here. And offensive line, even without injuries, guys get tired. You got to rotate guys in and out throughout the game. And to have somebody, whether he starts or not, especially if he doesn't, who's waiting and sitting there and can be like, okay, I know what is expected if I am starting.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. The depth is a huge deal. And Sharon even says it. Imagine having depth on the offensive line. We don't really have to imagine that much anymore. It's not completely there yet, but it is so much better than where it was, 3 weeks ago.
Took a step in a massive direction.